of. And I'm delighted to have with us Nicole Spaldo, uh, who is a very active member of our community, to tell us a little bit about herself and to introduce David. Nicole, thanks so much for being on.
Hi there. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this event. My name is Nicole Spaldo, as Andy mentioned, and I'm a Flanders resident for almost 9 years. My family and I enjoy spending time outdoors, particularly walking. In fact, I walked the baby for 90 minutes this evening to take a nap. Prior to the pandemic, but especially since COVID started, we have really been able to take advantage of the outdoor spaces our town has to offer, especially the parks and the walking paths nearby. We live right over by Flanders Park. The pavilions have really been great for meeting spaces for our Girl Scouts since we have to meet outside and find alternative locations for our events. And we have harnessed a great deal of young energy to keep these spaces clean. Our group has even held a cleanup at Turkey Brook, and our troop will be holding one at Flanders Park next month for Earth Day. I've taken a special interest in the environmental concerns of Flanders, due in part to the Mintek issue, which was just resolved over this past year, and that is quite a relief for our residents in this area. What I learned from that experience is that our voices are powerful and influential, and that we as residents, if we want something to be better, we can make it happen. So grateful tonight to have David Alexander here with us to talk about our beautiful town and the trails we have available to us. He is a part of the Mount Olive Open Space Committee and has created a free and interactive map to find and enjoy our Mount Olive trails. He is a dedicated member of our community, and we are so lucky to have him join us. Thank you, David, and welcome.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Andy, Nicole. Irene, appreciate the invite. Appreciate Lisa, my neighbor, who asked me to present and share. It's nice being with you all today, and glad you guys were able to turn away from Meghan and Harry and the Queen and all of that. I'm here today to talk about open space. We've got a lot of it in town. We're quite lucky. I moved here because of how much I enjoyed the natural areas within town and around town, and I'm going to share a bit of that with you all tonight. I am part of the Open Space Committee. It's a volunteer committee. We've got a terrific chair, Bob, and some wonderful people on there. Kathy and Laura, especially, I learn a lot from every time I hear them speak. They're, every special place you go to, these places are only there because somebody stood up and worked to preserve them and protect them so that they would be available for our use. So people like Kathy and Laura, particularly, I know have put a lot of work in and Bob have put a lot of work in over the years to, help preserve those spaces in town to maintain that culture that we have here. We've also got Gray and Tracy, who's our Environmental Commission liaison, Kim Mott, Planning liaison, and Colleen, our Council liaison. So we've got a good crew, volunteer crew that meets once a month, and anybody's welcome to come and join us. So Mount Olive, some of the things I'm going to share with you: the highest point in town, the depth of Bud Lake, the best lookout point, where you can find native brook trout in town, what some of the sensitive species are, and where the headwaters of the South Branch or the Raritan River are. So these are kind of some bioregional informational pieces that we should all be aware of. This is our backyard that we should have some general information on. There are some maps. So there's always been, for quite some time now, these maps available on our link to the recreation website or the township website. So these are wonderful to take a gander at and study so you have an idea where the trails are leading. But what I did is I took a GPS on my phone and I took a track of every trail. So I made an interactive map. So if you were to go to the recreation website and then click on the trails link, you would find all of this information. Or you just type Mount Olive trails into Google, you'll find this map. So it's completely interactive. You could be at home or you could be on the trail, and it'll show you exactly where you are within the trail. And then each of these little headings, you click on it and it gives you information. So I'm just going to click out of this slide and see if I can jump into another for a moment. Here's the map here. So you could be on your cell phone and it would show you where you are within the map. And then you can click on the icons and it'll tell you about the trails. So each icon shows the start of the trail and the end of the trail. And there's some photographs as well that give you kind of an idea of what to expect. So I have almost all the trails in town, GPS. There are some additional trails that as an open space committee, we're working on improving. We're doing that among the members, but also with help from local community members and scouts. And I'll share more about that later on. Okay, go back to my view. So this is exciting because it should help create better access for everybody into the nature. I know, I might just go walk through the woods without a trail at all. But if you're not comfortable with that, if you're not sure where the trails go, take a moment, go online and play around with this interactive map so you can really see clearly. You can zoom in and see very clearly where these trails lead to. But I am going to break down each trail. I'll show you some information about each trail. And when you do follow trails, there are blazes. So it's important to recognize what the blazes mean. So, if you don't see a blaze, pause. You might have to backtrack if you stepped off trail. But, generally you're just going to see single blazes. And then you'll see at the start of the trail with one blaze up ahead. And then when you finish the trail, it looks like a smiley face. So you're done. So trail blazes, very, very simple to follow and help yourself navigate along the trails. And the trails are color coded. So you have a white trail, you have an orange trail, you have blue trail. So you're following colored blazes. And if the trail blaze changes, then you're on a different trail. So that's important to recognize. Within Morris County, we've got incredible biodiversity. And there's this new app that's really popular called iNaturalist. You can take photographs of things and it'll even help to identify what you found. So even if it's like a small plant in your garden or out on the trail, you could take a photograph and it'll help you to identify it. And there have been over 52,000 observations on iNaturalist within Morris County and over 4,000 different species within Morris County. So that's quite an impressive diversity of species that we have locally. And so when I'm walking on trails, a lot of what I'm interested in is phenology. I like to say that, to see something new, take the walk you took yesterday. So there's a quote about that phenology, which is about the changing of the seasons that I want to share with you. And it's from a story that I read to children from time to time at my workplace, working for Essex County Parks at the Essex County Environmental Center. So last year, I gave myself 108 celebrations, besides the ones they closed school for. I cannot get by with only a few. Friend, I'll tell you how it works. I keep a notebook and I write the date and then I write about the celebration. I'm very choosy over what goes in that book. It has to be something I plan to remember the rest of my life. You can tell what's worth celebrating because your heart will pound and you'll feel like you're standing on top of a mountain and you'll catch your breath like you were breathing some kind of new air. And then all day you'll think how lucky you were to be there. Some of my best celebrations are sudden surprises. If you weren't outside at that exact moment, you'd miss them. So as an example, these are some local photographs. Andy was just asking about taking a night hike. And that's something I actually love to do because right now, March, we're going to get a rain soon. And we have quite a few vernal pools. If you ever been walking in like Alamucci State Park or along the White Trail and you see these big puddles of water, well, Bud Lake, Mount Olive area is like ground zero for amphibians, for vernal pool amphibians, for these mole salamanders, like that yellow spotted salamander I'm holding. So as soon as it rains, they're going to migrate downhill to these pools and they're going to look for mates. They're going to do their little mating dance. These male salamanders, they drop a spermatophore and then the female picks it up and she's fertilized and then she's going to lay her eggs. So there's this whole incredible springtime activity going on out there. Something that I think even David Attenborough could come here and narrate for us. So when you're out there through the seasons, there's all kinds of things to discover. Below me are wood frog eggs. Right now, actually yesterday, first day I was seeing bluebirds. They looked like they were looking for nesting sites. So we have some nest boxes out there, but you have to clean out your nest boxes because mice will move inside in the wintertime and then they go to the bathroom and make a mess of them. Spotted turtles. I learned that we had spotted turtles in town. That was exciting, but unfortunately, this one was DOR, dead on the road. But at least it was information to confirm that they were living within the swamp habitat adjacent to that road. Upper right, slimy salamanders. So there's a lot to find when you're just flipping over rocks and logs and walking along. As spring progresses a little further, we get our wildflowers like columbine and trout lily. We get different species of amphibians mating, like the toads going on in the puddles out there. It's eat or be eaten out there. You've got garter snakes eating green frogs. And then on the right, just a beautiful fern called maidenhair fern. So kind of just a random selection of some of the exciting discoveries out on the trail, if you're out there for nature. But there's a lot of reasons to appreciate open space. Primarily ecosystem services. These natural areas, they help clean our air and water. Stormwater storage. There's so much impervious surface in town, concrete, and the water just runs right off that down the storm drains into the waterways, like even our own Bud Lake. So these natural areas help soak up that stormwater and prevent flooding issues. Wildlife habitat. These open space areas act as food, water, shelter, and space for a diversity of species, including some that are threatened and endangered within New Jersey. Recreation. Jill, our parks director, does an incredible job. I'm always impressed by everything going on within our park system. But a lot of these parks are geared towards your ball fields, right? But there's a lot of people who want a different kind of recreation, an unstructured recreation. We want to just go out there and exercise and hike and walk the dog, maybe do some bird watching, maybe even some fishing and hunting. These open space areas are important for education. There's a lot of great organizations to help us learn about our natural world. We've got some really strong scouting groups within town. The Land Conservancy of New Jersey, the Musconetcong Watershed Association, and then another final reason, gratitude. I think it's important we acknowledge and appreciate the natural beauty of our town. So we're lucky to live in an area surrounded by so much open space. So the biggest trail in our Mount Olive system is the White Trail, and you can start at Adams Bagels. So right on Route 46, there's an access point, and it leads 0.8 miles, and you hit Gold Mine Road, and that might be the prettiest stretch of trail in the town, in my opinion, because there's an entire heron rookery in there. The beavers have flooded the forest, and now there's over 15 great blue heron nests. And so this is like our own Great Swamp National Wildlife Refuge that personally I can walk out my front door and walk with my dog right into. So you can see the herons, you can see beavers, you can see a variety of duck species and warbler species and amphibian species and different plants as well, interesting seasonal plants. So once you get to Gold Mine Road, though, it continues. Then it's 1.1 miles, and you hit the Mount Olive Greenway, and then that crosses. You can continue on to Mount Olive High School, and to Myers Pond, and then Myers Pond to Turkey Brook. So it's much easier to visualize if you just click on the Google interactive map and you zoom in and you follow the trail, and you'll get to see exactly how it maneuvers through the forest and where it crosses the roads. Myers Pond is like our crown jewel down below Turkey Brook. You could park at the dog park, and then if you walk down that dirt road, you'll see a gate, and we have a kiosk that was recently built by a scout, and you can walk down a dirt road to get to the pond. It's a 0.8 mile walk down the dirt road. So if you walk one trail after this presentation, I'd encourage you to check out Myers Pond behind the dog park in Turkey Brook. It's a very pretty pond and a very easy walk. And you could continue that trail. You could loop around back to the high school on the White Trail. Then you could go from the high school to the ropes course. Behind the ropes course, you link up with the Orange Trail, and that loops you around the pond. So that's a neat hike to loop around the pond and check out Myers Pond, and then come on back up to Turkey Brook. There are fish in there. There's some good bass and perch. Not big, but there's fish in there. There's beavers in Myers Pond. And unfortunately, we've got this invasive weed in the pond, this water chestnut. So one project coming up maybe with a group of scouts, I'd like to get some canoes down there, and we could scoop up all the water chestnut into the canoes and load it up in garbage bags to dispose of it, because it's really choking out the waterway, and it's harmful to the native vegetation. The Orange Trail I mentioned loops around the pond. Robbie Brauman, one of our Eagle Scouts, did a wonderful job building some boardwalk in there, so we're not walking through the mud constantly. And I was there last spring, and this pretty little deer fawn was camouflaged, hidden among among the skunk cabbage and the beech and the spice bush leaves. So that was kind of a exciting encounter. If you walk that trail, that orange trail, you walk along the Turkey Brook stream, which is a New Jersey Fish and Wildlife designated wild trout stream. So there's these like 4, 5, 6 inch, incredibly gorgeous little brook trout that live in there. And those are really an indicator of the quality of the environment. So we always, there's something, that term canary of the coal mine, it's sometimes overused, but brook trout for sure represent the canary within our natural world. Bud Lake, always a lot of talk about Bud Lake on the community forums. And sometimes people say it smells. Well, that's because it's only 12 feet deep. It's really a pond. It's a pond. It's gonna smell towards the end of the summer. It's a healthy lake. It's monitored. It's treated when if there's algae blooms, it's taken care of. There's always a lot of township talk at town council and within the environmental commission and open space committee to just try to do right by the pond. It's actually where New Jersey Fish and Wildlife gets their brood stock for the northern pike. So there's some big northern pike in there, as big as you can stretch your arms wide. A lot of people were out there ice fishing this winter. We had a good winter season. So there's pike in there that they were catching. A little harder to catch. What was much easier to catch are the yellow perch, a lot of yellow perch in there. And people are eating them as well. And the New Jersey puts out regulations about that, like only eat 1 meal per week or 1 meal per month. I've eaten yellow perch out of Bud Lake. I'm doing okay. To me, I kind of think it's healthier than what are you getting at the supermarket? Where's that coming from? Or you go to McDonald's, where's that coming from? So at least I know where my food is sourced from. There's also the white perch in there down on the bottom. So I was excited last open water season. I was catching a pile of them and didn't even know they were in there. And it's always neat to see the ice boats. That's quite an interesting recreation opportunity. If you get a good enough winter, we see those sailboats skating along on the ice. So if you have questions, we're going to take questions at the end, or you can type them in. But here's more on eating. Fish smart, eat smart, a guide to health advisories. I thought this might be interesting for y'all. It's broken down in terms of the species. Some species can get big and bioaccumulate more toxins. So there's some that have higher restrictions than others. So you make your own choices there. But I wanted to show you here's Bob. Bob in the picture there is our chair. We were doing with the Raritan Headwaters. He leads a monitoring project with them to help us at the headwaters of the South Branch of the Raritan, which pours out of Bud Lake. We were monitoring for macroinvertebrates. So we scoop in the water and we find these aquatic organisms, and they are also indicators. They tell us about the quality of the water. So like a leech might be worth 1 point, but a stonefly would be worth 3 points. So we tally up these points and they give us they qualify to tell us, is the water quality poor, good, or excellent. So we do a series of these different studies to try to make sure if something's gone wrong, we can check up on it immediately. We don't want to wait till the quality has gone south. We want to constantly be monitoring these conditions. Bud Lake Vista Trail. This is a neat trail off a Heights Road. You can walk 0.4 mile to the lookout. Now's the time. If you wait any longer, it's gonna be covered in leaves. You won't be able to see much, but it's just a neat little trail. And there's some old cars in there. I find them fascinating. I like seeing some of that in the woods. We do litter cleanups for the small stuff, but it's neat to see the car graveyard out there. The entrance for this trail is a little thick. It might take you a little moment to notice it, but there's a big plastic marker. And this is a site that maybe we'll have a scout group soon clear out the entrance a little more. But it's one of those things that needs constant maintenance because the plant growth on the roadside is always trying to conceal that entrance. Silver Springs Trail, another trail we're working on. You park. There's an access by Matt's Glass, and you can walk on up the Silver Springs Trail. And Last time I was in there, I found a box turtle. You know, I always hear from people, oh, when I was a kid, I found box turtles in the woods. Now you barely hear that. But I found a box turtle in the Silver Springs Trail area. So that was exciting. So just, another indicator that it's a quality environment, and it's nice to have some access via trail to go and explore it. Some of these people, these are all our volunteers who've helped over the years. Laura Zwack on the Open Space Committee has done a tremendous job before I even started building trails and working with volunteers. And she's starting up a new trail stewards program. So we're going to have people kind of sign on to tackle a specific section of trail. Just at the edge of town, we've got the Morris Canal Greenway, previously known as the Braille Trail. This is one of my favorites. It's just a flat stretch of trail along the Morris Canal. And there's a lot of wildflowers in there. There's milkweed and joe pye weed and ironweed. Some really gorgeous spring ephemeral wildflowers as well. So that's a neat trail to walk through the different seasons and see all how the plants are changing. But you can see how mellow it is. It's, you find the right trail for what your mood is, whether you're hiking or just wanting to take a nature walk. So the Morris Canal Greenway is a neat spot to explore. In town, we've got also the Land Conservancy of New Jersey has the organic community garden. So not too many towns have their own community garden. So this is a neat opportunity for people if you're into gardening. It's part of the South Branch Preserve as well. So there's some beautiful trails in there. So even if you don't garden, you can just explore the area. But if you do garden, it's an organic garden. You could buy a plot. There's water. There's good fences. There's a shed full of tools, and there's a nice community of people that that help each other out. There's my wife in a photo. Shout out Natalia. We grew a garden plot there for a few seasons and really enjoyed it. The Land Conservancy also has the South Branch Preserve North, which is a completely gated area, which is meant, it's a deer exclosure. They're keeping the deer out, or you could call it a native plant enclosure, where really we're protecting native plants, because these deer eat like 7 pounds of plants a day. They're devastating our forests, giving the forest floor a crew cut, right? They're creating ghost forests. There's no new native plants growing. Everything you see now is invasive, and that's really problematic. So there's a guy, Dennis, who works for the Land Conservancy, who's I would call him like a plant artist. There's these incredible, beautiful native wildflowers, and he works on improving these preserves to put those plants in to attract beautiful birds and butterflies and all the other species that take advantage of that natural environment. The Trail Conservancy, the New York, New Jersey Trail Conservancy conference has maps as well. We're surrounded by Stevens State Park and Alamucci State Park, like Fire Tower Road. That's a neat area to access. Station Road, I believe, is another access with a parking lot. And the Trail Conference has some terrific maps to go in and explore that area. I mentioned the best place for a lookout, Fire Tower Road. If you hike up beyond Fire Tower Road, there's a fire tower, and you can even walk up to the top of the fire tower and look out. So that's pretty neat. And it's monitored. It is monitored throughout the year in fire season. We have a lot of rail trails as well. We've got the Sussex Branch Trail and the Columbia Trail. So if you like rail trail walking or bike riding, these are wonderful opportunities. This winter, there were a lot of cross-country skiers out there, and snowshoers. We had so much snow, so you can go a long distance on both these trails and make a whole adventure out of it. And then boating and fishing. We've got Bud Lake, we've got Jeff Lakes, we've got Myers Pond, we've got the Musconetcong River, we've got the South Branch of the Raritan. We've got Aeroflex nearby. We have Lake Tilcon nearby. So there's a lot of different boating and fishing. These are all just different fish species, like the white perch, the yellow perch, the rainbow trout, upper right, then bottom right, a largemouth bass, then a black crappie, a brook trout. That's the brook trout with the fly in its mouth. with the incredible colorful spots, the blue and yellow and red halos, and then landlocked salmon as well. So you could go to these different water bodies and target different species. And you have to have your fishing license, and that fishing license money goes towards wildlife conservation. It goes towards improving boat access ramps. So when people are boating and fishing, when they're fishing and they buy a license, that money is going towards helping to create access to all this open space. And not just fishing, but hunting. I mentioned the deer. We're in zone 8 in Mount Olive. There's over 3,000 deer each season harvested in zone 8. There's another 3,000 that gets hit by cars, right? So statewide, it's about 45,000 deer last year that got harvested, and probably about equal number got hit by cars and died. So we're way overpopulated with deer. There's approximately 112 per square mile, but 5 to 15 is considered sustainable for native forest regeneration. So you go out in our forests and you see invasives like Japanese barberry. And then, I live in Morris Chase area, and the landscapers, when they set it up, they plant barberry. So they're planting the most useless, worthless, invasive plants because they're the cheapest. Aldo Leopold says to have an ecological education is to live in a world of wounds. So when I see these invasive barberry plants, to me it's ugly. But if if you don't have knowledge of plant names and their values, you never notice these things. But it's important that we choose natives. We want to be in our own landscapes. We want to be planting natives. We can be ripping up our lawns and planting native plants, but it's really only going to work if we also all support deer management. Deer management is critical to taking care of our New Jersey environment. And it's a lot of meat. Hunters love eating the deer meat. It's fresh, clean, organic meat, right? So you get 35, 40, 45 pounds of meat out of a deer. That's an incredible harvest. So we do have trail stewards if you're interested in helping with the trails. We're going to put more of this out soon once we all get it approved. But we've got Laura who's going to start up this trail stewards program. So if you're interested, you could say, oh, I'm going to take care of this stretch of white trail, or I'm going to take care of the orange trail, and you could be our trail steward for that section. And then we have scout projects, so Eagle Scouts, or for the Boy Scouts, or Gold Awards for the Girl Scouts. We're always glad to work with Scouts. These are some of our Scouts who've done some terrific projects for us recently. So I want to thank you all for joining. You're welcome to stick around if you have questions. You could type them in, or maybe we can even unmute, and you're welcome to ask questions.
If anybody has any questions, please
Bruce.
feel free to type it into the chat room, or
Thank you, Marissa. So the highest point is Fire Tower, or right at the open space Greenway, where there's that big kiosk when you're driving towards Turkey Brook Park. Behind the Greenway, there's another spot. I believe it's the 1,200 foot elevation. So the two are really equal. It's either Fire Tower or right at that kiosk at the Mount Olive Greenway. If you just type in Mount Olive Trails, you'll find the Google Interactive Map. This will also be shared, so you'll be able to click on those maps. I linked them all, so you can just click on the map and it'll link you straight to the printout of it. I'm not aware of, there's some, a lot of trail groups online. Hopefully your own troop leaders can lead a hike with your scouts and get them out there on the trails. The whole idea of the mapping is hopefully to make that easier and easier for everybody. The boardwalks are usually about 3 feet wide, but sometimes less. Sometimes they're just a plank or two. It's ADA accessible, like within reason. A lot of the trails are rocky and muddy, so it can be a challenge.
So David, I see I'm looking through the questions earlier ones. Where can we find the trail maps? Do you have the Google site, or you want to just mention it again?
Yeah, if you just type Mount Olive Trails into Google, you'll find our maps. They're all up. If you go to, I have a website, natureintoaction.com. You can go to Nature into Action, and you'll find a link for the trail maps. When I'm done, I'll push it up as the front post, so it's easier to find. But if you go to the Mount Olive website, you can go to the recreation department, and there's a link for trails, and that'll take you there. And then New York, New Jersey Trail Conference has maps for Alamucci State Park and Stevens State Park. I don't know if anybody offers guided trail walks in town.
Are you aware of any hiking groups, David?
Yeah, Metro Trails is one. Mike Helbing runs Metro Trails. He sometimes hikes through town. There's hiking groups through Kittatinny State Park. I think they have a Wednesday walkers group.
David, if the Mount Olive Democrat group wanted to coordinate to help to do, recently we've started to do some cleanup. We have Link Road we've adopted. So if we wanted some ideas on where we could help, could we coordinate through you, or would we go to Laura? How would that work?
We do want to put out, we kind of want to get, I think we want to get trail, well, yeah, you could just reach out to us, but I think we'd like to get trail stewards who are responsible for the sections, and then they could even help coordinate these projects. You could reach out, and we could just gather emails, and then when we have a project opportunity, we would share it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not always aware too of where like litter cleanups need to be done, so people can also share that information if they know of something.
Okay.
I
think
think
the idea of maybe
we do
taking
pretty
on
well
a
in
part of the
town.
trail and becoming trail stewards is a great idea.
Yeah.
Totally.
You have a question there from Cheryl Conway. David, any unused space being considered for additional trails?
Yeah, there's the Jill Devlin. There's a Devlin property that we're building trails on. I just haven't GPSed it to share it. I believe there is more space, but that's something. Yeah, that's something we maybe we could chat about at the next open space meeting, seeing if there's more space for more trails. I'm sure there is, but I don't believe that our existing trails are getting all that much use. So it'd be nice to just take care of what we have as well and get people out there on the beautiful stretches that are already built.
There's a question on, is the Highlands Trail in Mount Olive?
Yeah.
Are you
The
familiar with that
Highland
one?
Trail cuts across Alamucci and Stevens, I believe. I think there is some of it off of Stevens State Park Road. I always cross the Highland. I walk on the Highlands Trail if you ever go towards Jeff Lakes, if you park at Jeff Lakes or the bike trail there, you can walk on the teal colored Highlands Trail.
And Monica asks, who do I contact to collaborate more with my kids' Cub Scouts? Is there
Yeah.
anybody to collaborate with, or do you encourage people to just look at the
You
maps
know,
and
that's
get on
really
out
what the
there?
Cubs. Yeah, that's really what the scout leaders should be doing, leading the kids on the trails and gaining the confidence themselves to do that. But if not, you go to places like the Great Swamp Outdoor Education Center, Somerset County Outdoor Education Center, Pyramid Mountain Nature Center, Essex County Environmental Center. There's over 100 different environmental centers providing environmental education within New Jersey. So I'm part of the Alliance for New Jersey Environmental Education, and so we have a whole big community of environmental educators that are providing scouting programs. That's also on natureintoaction.com. If you want to find the nearest environmental education provider, I have a map for that as well.
I think what we'll do is when we post the video of this, we'll also get a couple links to that David is referencing that we'll include on
Sure.
our post. So everybody will have access to that.
Sure. And if you share this slideshow, or I could post it up, it's all live linked. So if you just click on the
Okay,
photos of the
perfect.
maps, it takes you right there.
Even better.
Would you suggest for walking group, speed walking? I think they do kind of some speed walking at Kittatinny State Park. Yeah, speed walking. Yeah, paved walkways or the rail trails are great for speed walking. Turkey Brook's got some great loops. You can definitely take some loops in Turkey Brook or walk down to the pond and back.
David, Jill Daggins mentioned, hi Jill, for the 150th anniversary of Mount Olive, we're holding a geocaching event.
Cool.
And we're glad to see we're still doing that.
Yeah, there's a lot. If you go to geocache.com or .org, there's lots of geocaches all over the place. It's a lot of people use that as an opportunity, as an excuse to get out there and explore new areas. So definitely something interesting.
And Cheryl,
Some of them, Barbara, some of them are circular. If you could walk from Turkey Brook down around Myers Pond to the high school, and then on the Orange Trail back to the pond, and then back up to Turkey Brook. So you can certainly make circles out of trails with there will be a little bit of overlap on most of them, but a lot of them you just walk and turn around. So when I learn trail, sometimes I'll walk 20 minutes down a trail and then I'll turn around, and then the next time I'll go 30 minutes down the trail and I'll turn around. So if I didn't have a map, that's often how I go about it. I just slowly familiarize myself with the area. The rail trails are bike trails. Let me go back for a sec. Here's the rail trails. If you want to bike, look up the Sussex Branch Trail and the Columbia Trail. These are incredible rail trail biking opportunities. Kittatinny State Park is really popular for mountain biking. Alamucci as well, but it gets a little harder to bike in there on those trails. But our Mount Olive trails are really hiking trails. Why are they called rail trails? Because they were railroads, and the railroads were pulled up. So they were rails once there, and they've been pulled up, and now they're walking paths. The Columbia Trail, I believe, was also a pipeline trail. There is some pipeline still in the area. But these are important recreation opportunities. When the railroad goes away, then we've got this linear trail for recreation.
Great, I think we got all the questions answered.
David, on behalf of everybody, I've been here in town about 35 years. I've learned so much in the last, 35 minutes. This has been an excellent resource. It is perfect timing. My wife and I were walking around Turkey Brook today, but we can't wait to get back out on the trails. Columbia Trail has been especially good for skiing, cross-country skiing. So keep that in mind if we have another snowfall. But what amazing resources we have in town. And David, do you want to give a shout out about the Open Space Committee? I know that those meetings now are also viewable online, right?
Yeah, we have been holding them virtually. So yeah, I guess anybody would be welcome to sign on. Yeah, if you look up the Open Space Committee, you'll find contact information.
So we will post the presentation as well as the video. You'll have access to that through our website, which is mountolivedemocrats.org. I want to thank everybody for attending. I'll also say, David, since you've mentioned the CSA, we're announcing this evening that next month, the 7th of April, we're going to be having Margaret Noon, who is, if Margaret, you're still with us. I know Margaret was on before. Margaret is the owner and farmer of the School Lunch Farm on Stevens Park Road. And Margaret will be talking to us next month about organic farming, the CSA program, the importance of having farms here in Mount Olive, and how we can all participate in her CSA program to get fresh vegetables organically, locally, grown transparently right here in Mount Olive. So we are very much looking forward to that. And if there's anything else, I guess that's it. So awesome. Thank you so much. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy the great outdoors. And I'm sure we will see all of you out there at some point.
Great
Thank you
job.
all.
Thank
Take
you all.
care.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Great.